Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I have a difficult task. I'm going to repot this Ficus Benjamina in this 3D printed pot. Once again, I'm working under the threat of a rainstorm, but hopefully it'll hold off to finish this repotting. This variety of Ficus Benjamina is usually called the two little leaf ficus, or the Ficus Natasha sometimes. It has very tiny leaves naturally. I'll spin the tree around so you can see what it looks like at the present moment. This was the front I had picked out for it in a previous video. So I'll rotate it around. In the past, I've done some pretty severe root pruning on this tree, and this tree suffers from a common problem I see on these ficus species, is that the roots are way too large compared to the rest of the tree. When I rotate it around like that, you can see how large these surface roots are. They're about the same diameter as the trunk, and in the past I had removed a great big one here, a great big one over here, and I didn't really expect that the tree would survive. But it did, and it recovered, and the new root base grew in quite nicely. And now that's really thick and coarse, and it needs another severe root pruning. The challenge today will be to reduce this giant root system back to try and make it in proportion with the rest of the tree and still have the tree live. I'm going to start with a little pruning. I've got some branches really low on the tree here, kind of suckers at the root base. And if I wanted to grow a multi-trunk ficus, that would be fine. I would develop them into, a second trunk or a third trunk. But I don't think I do on this tree. I think I want to keep it as a single trunk. So I'll prune all this lower foliage off. All right, off come these lower branches. So I'll just come in here. There's a bit of a ball-shaped growth that all these shoots are coming out of, so I'll need to take that right off. So I'll just prune everything off first, and then I'll come in with the concave pruners and kind of remove that bump there. Like that, so that's nice and flush now. So that looks much better. There's also some out the back here that I'll have to prune off. Like that, and I'll come in and clean that cut up too, like that. So now you can see the trunk a little more clearly. There was a major cut here where I think a large root was pruned off. I'm going to remove the tree from the pot now, so let's see if it comes out. Oh yeah, it's coming. There I go. Lots of roots have grown down on the bottom of the pot. You can see the drainage screens here. There's one drainage screen, second one. Okay, I'll start raking out the roots. All right, here I go with the root rake. I'll just comb out all the old soil. You can see all the fine fibrous roots that have grown in here. There's some nice moss at the back here. Don't know if I'll be able to save it or not. Here's that moss. I guess I can kind of save it. All right, I'll keep that for growing on another bonsai or penjing. I put the moss in a tray, so I'll just add a bit of water to it, and that'll keep the moss nice and green. I usually don't grow this species, and the reason is that they do get these really big, large potato kind of roots. The root kind of thickens up, and that's how these trees anchor themselves in the ground. The root grows into the soil, and then it thickens up, and it provides a really good anchor for the tree so it can survive, hurricanes and whatever nature throws at it. So in a bonsai pot, it's not so important to hold the tree down. It's usually not going to blow over in the wind. So you end up with these really kind of not the most attractive roots in the world. Look at the size of that one. Wow. See that? How this root, which is quite skinny here, and then it just develops into this giant fat root, which has no, no taper. It doesn't look very miniature, so that's going to have to be cut off completely. That's why I generally don't grow this species, because they just, to get these roots, and they're really difficult to manage. Now, I can't remember the last time I repotted this tree, and I can't remember why I didn't show it on video. It might have been before I started the channel. I doubt it, but okay, so the top is combed out pretty well. I'm going to flip it over and start on the bottom. So I'll take the tree off the end of the table so the branches don't get damaged, and then I'll start on the underside, combing out all the old soil, which looks good. It's in good shape, the soil. Looks like my standard mix of half safety zorb and half perlite. Okay, I can take that over to the washing station now and just give the root system a wash so I can see exactly what I have. Okay, into the washing station. The ducks are always in here. Wow, look at those roots. There is some good roots in here. The bonsai police are out in full force. Okay, I think that's pretty clean, the roots. I can see what's going on, that's for sure. All right, here comes the part that's going to be hard to watch for some people, because I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting. So I've got to establish my root plane. So I've got some nice roots coming down and then some sub roots coming off them, which could be exposed. You know, if my soil line was about here. So this has got to get cut off. So I'm going to keep that in mind as my soil line. And I'm going to cut off everything below that, including this giant potato root here. And I'm going to try and make my cuts flush or level with the surface of the soil. That way when the new roots grow in, they can just kind of smoothly continue on this root system. So here goes this big potato one for starters. So it's going to come off right here. Like that. Now that is a ginseng ficus root if I ever saw one. Wow. So that one is cleaned up, pruned up. Wasn't the greatest cut. My cutters are dull. I've got to get to my tools. Made a good cut in the front face here, but okay, so that one's removed. Now I've got some coming out the bottom. You see this one here? Kind of goes in a weird direction. Let me move this one first. This one grows back in towards the center of the tree. Don't want that one. So this one's next, this curly root. And again, I'm going to cut it off like that. That was a nice cut. So now at least it's flatter on the bottom. So now this one's next. And you can see this is a potato root, and then coming off it is even some thicker ones. So I've got to take it off way back here. Sorry, I just bumped the camera. So here I go. So I'm wondering, see, I got some nice roots down in here, and this just kind of hides it all. I'm wondering if I need this root at all. Maybe I'll cut it back short for now to here. Like that. Try and get in there a bit more. It's hard to see where this root is. It's so giant. There. I think I got it out now, yeah. So there's that root. Look at the size of that root. Wow. Amazing. Another one off. So slowly reducing this bulbous root base back to something that looks sort of normal. Now I've got I've got a problem here. This root, you know, if this is my root plane here, this one's sticking way up in the air. You see that? So I can't use these roots. I got to take them off. So I'm going to prune them off for now. There's no part of them I can use either. That's gone. Now I got to clean that up a bit. You can see I removed one here in the past and it's all healed over. So I'll do a similar thing here. Okay. I think that's looking okay. I'm just going to get rid of some of the soil here. To get out of this crevice. Okay, so you can see even this root starts off skinny, gets really bulbous here. So I'm going to take off the bulbous part, so I'll prune it at the widest portion, right about here, like that, taking off the bulbous part. Now, got a few roots that are going quite deep. Trim those back. So I've kind of got a flat root plane, but the tree isn't sitting upright. So there's still something under here. And here it is. There's another bulbous root forming under here, which needs to be removed. So I'll do that like that. There it goes. There's another one here. Like that. And then there's one coming down here. If I can get in there, like this. Sitting better now. It's still something here. It's this root here needs pruning. There. Much better. I think I've got to take a bit off this one just so it sits nice and flat. A bit more off here. That is looking really good now. It's sitting flat at a good height. Very pleased with that. Now let's go over here. There's a root crossing here. I'm going to try and untangle it. Looks like that's fairly easy to do. Sorry about my hand in the way there. Yeah, that's done. Off of here I've got this big thick bulbous root. I'm still sitting a little high here. Gotta take some part of this root off. Like that. That's better. Yeah, some pretty big cuts underneath here. But necessary. Still a bit more off here. Like that. That's better. Yeah, okay, so I was at this root here. I've got to determine what I'm going to do with it. It starts off skinny and then divides very quickly. This is a nice root. It has taper. Starts off thick and gets skinnier. That one doesn't. It came off a really thick potato-like root. I think what I need to do, this root is too thick. So I am going to do some root work here. I'm going to take this off here, like that. So there, gets rid of that one. Over here, this is where I could divide the root. cut part of it away. I think I'm going to try cutting part of it away. So you can see there's a root coming out here that isn't bad. So if I make this the root line and get rid of half the root. So I come in here like this, do a little root reduction like that. So now I've got this root a little skinnier, and this will eventually heal over. And probably fairly quickly. These root systems grow pretty fast on the ficus. And I may get aerial roots that come out above it and cover that up, and might look quite natural in just a few years. So I've got a big thick one here, but I can't do a lot about that. This one, I think I'll try the same thing. I'll divide the root like that. Get rid of a portion of it like that. That helps. This one I can do the same. I'll get rid of the part that's not radial. Take that off like that. So these, you know, it doesn't fix it entirely, but it helps. I mean, you got to work with what you have. This one ideally needs to be split too. It's really thick here. Look at the size of it. I could take this portion right off. I could cut a slice out the middle, but this root's quite nice here. Really, from the front view, it's this one that's the ugly one, so I'm going to try taking it off. Here I go. Like that. Like I said, this video isn't for the faint of heart when it comes to root pruning. Okay, so I don't know if that's much better, but I'm going to try and take some off the bottom of this root. Try and get it to look better. You have to imagine these roots healed. I mean, right now they're going to look pretty ugly. But once they callus over and grow more fine roots around them, they might start looking okay. Something like that. I think that's an improvement of what it was. I'm just looking to see if there's any major... This is still quite thick here, but maybe the next time we do root pruning I can do something more in that area. I could take this back part off. I'll do that. I'll take it off. I think this part came off too, but that's okay. Okay, getting there. Something holding it on. There. And this one's kind of useless. It kind of came off. Remove that. Okay, I'm gonna take this right off. There's some living tissue connecting it to here. Major root carving here. Okay. Well, that's an improvement. Doesn't have any really thick, ugly surface roots. Like maybe this is my worst one here now. That one's still kind of thick, but not too bad. It flows into the ground nicely. Except for that section. So I think that can be planted now. I think I've done my root work for today. Over here is the roots I took off. I'll show you a close-up of them. Here they are, some very big bulbous roots. They look like blimps. Should call them blimp roots. Wow. So that's the size of the root, and you compare that to the trunk of the tree, and I think the root is thicker. Wow. I'm trying the tree out in the 3D printed pot now, and the roots on this side kind of come down at a steeper angle, and this one kind of is more gradual, so it makes sense to push the tree to this side of the pot because these roots are steep and these need more room. And it looks good. Visually, it looks really good. This pot isn't the largest. I'm going to see what it looks like in this pot that it came in. Maybe that's big enough. It is. It has more room, actually. So I'm going to put it back in the same pot. This is a nice clay pot. Here's a look at the tree in the pot now. And I'll use the same criteria. You know, the roots slope down more on this side, so I'll push the tree to the left-hand side of the pot. Somewhere about there, and it's just sitting on the bottom of the pot right now, so when I put the soil in, it'll come up a little bit in height. It is getting very, very dark. There's some big black storm clouds coming in. I just remembered I'm out of soil, and I have all my succulents in the greenhouse because it's going to rain today, and quite hard. So there's all my succulents, and all my soil making ingredients are on the far side of it, so I can't reach them. So I'm going around, I'm reusing some of the soil that I tried starting some of the larches, and it's from this spring and it's never really had a tree growing in it, so I'm going to use some used soil today. I've got the pot all cleaned up. I don't know if there's a front or a back to this pot. Looks good in that view. Looks good in that view. I think the little cutout for the feet is better in this view, so that'll be the front. I have the tree sitting in a bucket of water here with my rosemary cuttings, which are still green. It's a good sign. I've got the screens in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add a layer of soil now. I think that's a good height. I'll have the tree sitting on top of that. Alright, I'll place the tree in the pot, keeping it over to the left-hand side and towards the back slightly. Somewhere around there, I think. Let me check from the front view. I'm having a look at the tree now. It's kind of tilting towards the right a bit, the trunk line, so I'll straighten it up. That looks better. I think it's nice and straight now. I think it's a little too far towards the left-hand side. It looks a little crowded on that left side, so I'll move it a little more towards the center. Okay, I think that looks more comfortable in the pot. I think the roots are a good height out of the soil. I think all is looking good. Here's a look at how the tree sits in the pot. Looks pretty comfortable in there. Lots of space for the new roots to grow. Doesn't look too crowded. I think it's a good pot size for this tree. All right, in goes the soil around the roots. Very porous soil, which is good for ficus. They like a good free draining soil with frequent watering and fertilizer. So a little more soil here. I'll try out my new chopstick that Mitchell sent to me. Just kind of work the soil in between these roots. The chopstick's working really well. Alright, the rest I can do with my hands here, just kind of leveling the soil off. Okay, that is all planted. I'm going to give it a watering. So I won't be touching the top of the tree. I'll just keep it misted, moist, and in the greenhouse where it's humid. And hopefully in the next 3 or 4 days, it'll start to grow once again. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see it from all angles. I'm back to the front. Well, the rain held off today, but it is really hot and muggy today. It's time now for today's updates. The cashew seeds are continuing to push out of the soil. You can see a couple lifting up there, over there too. All of them seem to be growing. Here's that one. It's got the shell of this nut still on top, but I'm sure that'll break loose soon. Here's some more in this corner. They're all growing. Very exciting. So I only need a few cashews, maybe one or two, and the rest I'll be able to give away to other club members, which will be nice for them to get a new species to try out. The needles on my Austrian pine have matured now. They're all dark green, hard needles. It's looking really good. I think the roosters agree. Yeah, a lot of surface area for photosynthesis on it, so it should thicken up a lot this year, the trunk, with all that growing it'll do. My Ficus Microcarpa that I repotted into this rectangular pot is growing really well. I've got roots, aerial roots growing on the trunk there. You can see them. I've got them growing over top of these roots. New ones in here. I've got some roots growing over the surface of the soil and over the lip of the pot here. I've got some aerial roots growing from up here. So it's really taking off now. This warm and humid weather is just doing wonders for its growth. Beside it are the giant Sequoia seedlings. So I've got, some of them died, but I've got some good healthy ones. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 really healthy looking ones. So I'm looking forward to them getting a little stronger and a little taller. They're not out of the danger zone yet. My Brazilian rain tree, let me come over here. The leaves are folded up now. They come out in the morning and then around noon they still fold up. So it's still recovering from the repotting. It's not that strong yet, but it has new growth coming on it all over. So I think it's just needs a little more time. I've heard that they don't like, much root pruning when you repot them. And, they can take it. It just takes a long time for them to recover and start growing strongly again. So that's okay. I'd rather have good roots, good surface roots, and, the tree take a little longer than this knot of gnarled up surface roots that doesn't look very good. So it will recover quite nicely and start growing really strongly, I think, by the end of July. My birch tree here is doing really well. Oh, there's some ducks under here. Hello, sorry to disturb you. Yeah, it's doing really well. Thickening up, getting lots of branching on it. So that's good. Lots of new shoots developing on the Bog Forest. You can see the larches here have all kinds of new budding coming out on them. This one over here especially. This one too. Looking good. The spruce in the background, the black spruce, also doing well. There's buds all over them. So I think they'll come out this year. There is some new ones popping out here. There's a new apex growing here. If not, those will be all ready for next spring to come out. And it'll make the trees look quite full when all that new growth comes in. So it's doing really well considering this forest was created this spring. It's starting to get a bit more mature looking, which is kind of exciting. The last tree I'll update today is my Ficus Religiosa. It is growing in really well. You can see all the new leaves coming on it, how the new ones are a pinkish, reddish color. Really cool. So it's growing well, and also the little one, the one I have with the Wally display, is doing really well also. And I think, I had it sitting here and I think it's rooted into the soil. Yeah, it has. I can't move the pot. There must be roots coming down through the drainage hole and anchoring it into the soil of the bigger one. So I'll have to separate those someday. But yeah, it's doing really well, this Ficus Religiosa. Before we go, I'm going to use the moss that I peeled off of this tree and put it back just to get some moss started. So I'll start it around the edges, and that way it'll kind of creep in towards the center of the tree as it grows. Like that. I did a lot of severe root work on my little ficus today. I hope it recovers and grows well in the future. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.